This landmark deal that we've been discussing will see the export of liquefied natural gas from northwestern British Columbia to Germany, as Canada continues to look for more reliable global trading partners in the face of this U.S. uncertainty. So what does this agreement mean for Canadian energy moving forward? To help us break that down, let's bring in Jiten De Silva in Calgary. She's the former CEO of Canada Energy Regulator and a former Alberta Deputy Minister of International Relations. Thank you for joining us and sticking around and listening into that announcement.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Okay, so let's put into context first the news that was made there, as well as why this is just so significant right now, this partnership involving Germany.
Well, it's a tremendous opportunity for Canada for a number of reasons. One, to diversify our export markets, to actually access that European market is very important, not only for economics, but for and us to become an energy superpower, and also for us to cement some of our allegiances with Europe. So that is tremendously important. Also, an opportunity for Canada to demonstrate that we can get things built and get things built quickly, and also to do it in partnership with Indigenous peoples. So the fact that this is being done in a joint ownership model with the First Nation, I think is also a really important signal, just really to demonstrate that it is possible to advance reconciliation while also advancing these other opportunities.
Now, we certainly heard that this is a long-term contract, but there was a question there about the way that, of course, the geopolitics and the global economy when it comes to energy has been shifting over the past few years. So when we talk about the changes that it's hard to predict, but they could come before this entire process is complete, how might that impact what we're seeing at this stage?
Well, I often say now that I don't have a crystal ball when it comes to energy. I feel like I have more of a magic 8 ball because global energy system is changing and changing dramatically, and we don't really know where it's going. But one thing we can say with certainty is that we are still very, very dependent on fossil energy. Both oil and gas continues to make up a strong percentage of our energy mix. And with this push for electrification, we know that natural gas will remain central to this process, as it is a very reliable fuel source and it is cleaner than some others. So of course, there's still emissions that come from natural gas. It is cleaner than coal and some other sources. And so I think it's fair to expect that we know that fossil energy will remain core, these conventional sources, or remain core to the global energy mix for at least a few decades.
We also want to talk about how this is, of course, a deal with a European ally and not with the United States. I mean, what does that say about how Canada's economy is shifting as well?
Well, I think Canada is currently engaged in a game of 3D chess. So we're really trying to make sure that we are diversifying our export markets because one, we know it's never smart to just have one customer, but also every time we can get our own resources to Tidewater, we increased our options, which means that typically we can sell those resources for more money, and that is really important. Also, in terms of achieving our ambition to be an energy superpower, it's not enough just to have the resource or the commodity. We need to be able to project that resource, which means we need to be able to sell it places other than the United States. And so this is an important step in that regard as well, just demonstrating that we do have those options. And also, as the minister said in that press conference, the world is looking to Canada. We do have things that the world needs. So this is also important for our place geopolitically, because when times are uncertain, people return to those basic human needs of safety, shelter, food, and fuel. And Canada has an abundance of fuel if we can get it to market. So this really does present an opportunity for us to demonstrate that we can be that reliable, trustworthy partner as long as we can get this project built quickly.
Certainly we did hear from the leader of the Nisga'a Nation, but also we know that the project has faced legal challenges from First Nations, from Indigenous communities, and also from environmental groups. So how does that play out down the road as these discussions and assessments will continue?
Well, I think the reality is most regulators in Canada regulate in the public interest, which is not defined. It means that you're constantly balancing the impacts on the economy, the environment, Indigenous rights, landowner rights, all of the things. And so you need to make a decision about what is in the public interest. This is also why we elect leaders to make these hard decisions. So, Canada is making this calculation that right now, becoming an energy superpower, contributing this to the world at a time when when we are facing considerable geopolitical uncertainty, when we also need to navigate our relationship with the United States. So there will be challenges for sure, but I think we heard in that press conference as well, this commitment to continued conversation, to continued engagement with opponents of the project, to explain to them what will happen and to try to address some of their concerns. But I think realistically, increasingly, we need to get comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations and understand that we are going to have to make some trade-offs, and there will be some people who are not entirely pleased with how we move forward. And so we need to make sure that we're hearing those concerns and working the best we can to address them. But at the same time, it shouldn't stop us from doing what needs to be done.
Very finally on that point, I want to ask you, there had been, of course, perceptions of Canada as a climate leader. We're watching today as the former Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, steps away from the Liberal Party, as, of course, there have been many shifts to environmental policy under the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, as well. So I'm wondering what that does to Canada's perception globally and the positioning as well.
Well, the reality is that climate change is a global problem, and greenhouse gas emissions don't respect political borders. And so the challenge that we have is the agreements that have been made, the commitments that have been made by individual countries. But if we really want to address this problem, we should be looking to replace the most polluting, the most emitting energy sources around the world. And it is accurate that Canadian natural gas and LNG are produced at a lower environmental footprint than other energy sources, comparable sources around the world. So yes, it is true that Canada could potentially be increasing its emissions with this project, but we could also be contributing to lowering emissions around the world. And I think that's the mindset we have to adopt, that if this is a global problem, it requires a global solution and it requires countries working together. And this is potentially a contribution Canada can make to move countries off of coal and other more emitting sources.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your insights with us today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That was Jitane De Silva. She is the former CEO of Canada Energy Regulator and former Alberta Deputy Minister of
Thank you so
International
much for staying with
Relations.
us.
Thank you.